wondered how robots can pour tea or close a laptop without spilling a drop? Today we're diving into OmniManip, a breakthrough in robotic manipulation. This system combines cutting-edge VLMs with 3D spatial understanding, allowing robots to perform tasks like pouring tea or inserting a pen into a holder with incredible accuracy. Stick around as we explore how OmniManip bridges the gap between high-level reasoning and low-level precision. Let's get started.
All right, let's dive into this fascinating paper about robotic manipulation. The big challenge here is teaching robots to handle precise tasks, especially in messy, unstructured environments. You know, places where things aren't neatly arranged, and every situation is a bit different. While vision language models, or VLMs, are great at high-level reasoning, like figuring out what needs to be done, they often struggle with the nitty-gritty details. Think about tasks like pouring tea or closing a laptop. These require a deep understanding of spatial relationships, which VLMs just aren't built for. So, what's the solution? The authors propose something really clever: an object-centric representation. Instead of treating objects as just static things, they focus on how objects function in a task. For example, a teapot isn't just a teapot, it's something you grab by the handle and pour from the spout. The system uses key points and spatial directions to describe these interactions, almost like teaching the robot the canonical space of an object, how it's typically used. This approach bridges the gap between high-level reasoning and low-level action. The best part? It doesn't require fine-tuning the VLM itself. Instead, it uses a closed-loop system with real-time 6D pose tracking and primitive resampling. This means the robot can adapt on the fly, making it robust and capable of generalizing to new tasks. Now, to really see how this works, take a look at Figure 1 here. It's a great visual of how this system operates across different scenarios. You'll see tasks like pouring tea or closing a laptop broken down into active and passive roles. The system uses these interaction primitives to coordinate actions precisely. It's a big step forward for robotics, and it opens up a lot of possibilities for more advanced applications. Moving forward, let's explore how the authors tackle the limitations of using VLMs for robotic tasks. A common approach is fine-tuning these models with robot-specific data, but that's costly and often not very general. Instead, the authors rely on smaller, easier-to-handle units called interaction primitives. These primitives describe tasks in terms of points and vectors that define spatial constraints. Traditional planning often uses manual rules to handle these primitives, which can be unstable and inefficient. To address that, the authors propose leveraging an object's canonical space. Imagine it as a guiding structure indicating how you might grab, press, or rotate an object. By applying rigid transformations and a universal pose estimation model, the robot identifies interaction points and infers spatial constraints. Another crucial part is controlling VLM hallucinations, where the model might propose nonsensical interactions. The system counters this through a feedback loop that checks and refines each plan. This loop is key to correcting errors before they cause real-world mishaps. Overall, the framework connects big-picture planning to detail-oriented manipulation, giving robots a powerful way to handle a wide variety of tasks with greater reliability. Let's now talk about how the system's workflow looks in practice. The robot first identifies which objects are relevant to the task using vision language and foundational models on an RGBD scene. Think of a scenario where the robot locates a teapot and a cup for pouring tea. The task is then broken down into smaller stages, like grasping the teapot, holding it over the cup, and tilting it to pour. During each stage, objects can be classified as active or passive. In the pouring step, the teapot is active and the cup is passive. Next, interaction primitives come into play. They specify key points, like a handle or spout, and directions, like the tilt axis. Constraints ensure these key points line up correctly in three-dimensional space. The system also uses a closed-loop approach with 6D pose tracking so the robot can adjust in real time. To better visualize this, take a peek at Figure 2. It shows how object grounding, primitive definition, and trajectory planning all fit together into a streamlined pipeline. Notice how the detailed key points pair with robust pose data to keep everything on track. Now let's dive deeper into how tasks are broken into stages and how each object's role can change. Pouring tea offers a simple example. Initially, the teapot might be passive while the robot lines up for the grasp. Once it's being used for pouring, it becomes the active object. The authors describe object-centric canonical interaction primitives, which are essentially the important geometric points and directions on an object. Imagine a teapot's spout direction, or the orientation of its handle. These help the robot decide how to hold and maneuver the teapot. Because these primitives are tied to an object's canonical space, the same instructions can be reused across multiple scenarios. The system also employs distance constraints to keep objects properly aligned and angular constraints to maintain the right orientations. If you're curious about how these primitives look in action, check out Figure 3 and Figure 4. Figure 3 shows both visible points that the robot can directly see and invisible points that it has to infer. Figure 4 demonstrates how different interaction directions are proposed and then scored by vision language models. This ensures the chosen directions are meaningful for the current task. By focusing on these essential geometric details, the approach gains flexibility and reliability. Let's talk about the dual closed-loop system that addresses two big challenges: inaccurate interaction points from large models and uncertainties in real-world environments. The authors introduce a method called resampling, rendering, and checking, RRC. Essentially, the system checks if the necessary spatial constraints, like how close or how rotated the objects need to be, are fulfilled. If not, it resamples the primitives and repeats the process. Take a look at algorithm 1 to see the iterative workflow. The system cycles through multiple resampling attempts until the constraints are correct or the task fails. This helps avoid going forward with flawed plans. Meanwhile, the second closed-loop layer is in the execution phase. The robot tries to minimize a loss function that measures how far off the position and rotation are, as well as potential collisions. This two-tiered approach gives the robot both flexibility and precision. Because the system can fix mistakes on the fly, it's much more robust than a standard open-loop pipeline. That's key for handling unpredictable changes, like if the object shifts a little bit, or if there's unexpected sensor noise. Now let's see how well this approach works in real tests. The system, called OmniManip, is evaluated on 12 open vocabulary manipulation tasks, ranging from rigid object tasks, like pouring tea or inserting a pen, to articulated ones, like opening drawers or pressing buttons. The experiments involve rearranging object layouts and running each task 10 times to get a fair measure of success. To understand how OmniManip measures up, check out Table 1. It compares OmniManip to 3 other methods: VoxPoser, COPA, and Rekeep. You'll notice OmniManip consistently comes out on top in terms of success rate. For example, in picking up a cup on a dish, it succeeds 9 out of 10 times, far surpassing the other methods. This illustrates its zero-shot strength, meaning it doesn't have to be specifically trained for that exact task. A robotic arm equipped with depth cameras handles perception from multiple viewpoints. By blending off-the-shelf models with the system's specialized interaction primitives, OmniManip consistently executes tasks with precision. The main reason is that its strong constraints and continuous feedback loop let it adapt quickly to new conditions. Let's go a bit further and discuss a few core attributes: stability, viewpoint consistency, and efficiency. Stability refers to how well the system keeps track of relevant key points, despite tricky scenarios like occlusion or sensor noise. OmniManip achieves this by anchoring everything to each object's canonical structure, making it less prone to slip-ups than baseline methods like Rekeep or COPA. If you want a clear picture of this, check out Table 2. It shows how OmniManip maintains high success rates from various camera angles in tasks like recycle the battery. Then, have a look at Figures 5 and 6. They illustrate the workflow for planning and execution, and you can see how OmniManip keeps objects aligned, even in challenging views. Efficiency is also a strong point. See Table 3 for evidence. By focusing on key axes, OmniManip uses fewer iterations to plan a task compared to uniform sampling. Fewer iterations translates to quicker decisions. Yet the system doesn't lose accuracy. This efficiency, combined with real-time corrections, makes OmniManips especially suitable for complex manipulation tasks that demand both speed and precision. Finally, let's look at the system's self-correction mechanism, known as RRC, in more depth. This method enables OmniManip to evaluate its plans before carrying them out, which reduces errors. In tasks such as inserting a pen into a holder, it continuously refines its alignment with each step, significantly lowering the chance of a misalignment. Go ahead and check figures 7 and 8 here. Figure 7 walks through the self-correction cycle, showing how OmniManip iteratively adjusts its approach until the final alignment is spot on. Figure 8 illustrates failure modes in open-loop systems, such as the gripper drifting off target due to unexpected object movement. OmniManip avoids these issues through continuous 6D pose tracking, ensuring real-time adaptation. Table 4 highlights how this approach also improves the quality of demonstrations for imitation learning. Tasks like recycle the battery or insert the pen achieve over 90% success rates. The authors conclude that OmniManip effectively unifies high-level reasoning and low-level execution. However, they also note open questions, such as handling deformable objects and the need for comprehensive 3D models. In any case, OmniManip provides a structured foundation for expanding open vocabulary robotic skills, offering a clear path forward for scalable manipulation systems. And who knows, with systems like this, robots might soon be handling even more of the physical world's messy, unpredictable tasks. Whether it's assembling furniture, sorting recycling, or even helping out in the kitchen, the future of robotics is looking pretty hands-on, and OmniManip is leading the way. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Here's to robots that can not only think, but also do in the real world.